So, as a heads up, if you want to either become really hydrated or absolutely destroy your liver, whenever I say bullshit, take a drink. So, hello to whoever, to Godless Scummer and Bree. I know Bree's not here, but they already left a like and left a couple little chats. So hello to Bree if you end up watching this later, and hello to anyone else who is lurking in the chat and or watching in the future. And hi Manda. So a couple weeks back on Live from the Hive, Bree covered let's see, hold on, good. Okay, covered this video on the quote-unquote Kandahar giant. And while Bree did a fairly good job on their assessment, and when they released the singles, the video version of that segment, I will put it in the description. Fingers crossed if I remember. But considering how I, served in Afghanistan, disclaimer, I did not cover Kandahar as a province any time in my Army career. However, it was within my periphery of interest. And but yeah, seeing as how that was the case, I had some things to say. So, and yes, Jeff, this is that story about the U.S. forces that supposedly killed the Kandahar giant. So, like I said, if you want to destroy your liver or get really, really hydrated, when I say bullshit, take a drink. Now, I went ahead and sped through the intro, the little intro that they've got. So, with that, I'll think I'm about ready. Okay.
Folks, there is a hidden history that has been deliberately obfuscated from the...
Okay, even at even at 125, that's a bit too fast. So I'm going to slow that down a little bit. Wow, this guy talks fast. I forgot how fast this guy talks. So apparently there's a hidden history out there. This is going to be fun. Okay.
Peoples of the world, and that's why I am on the trail of the Nephilim. Our lead story today, the mythical Kandahar giant, the biblical cryptid allegedly killed by U.S. Special Forces, by Bernadette Giacomazzo.
So now I was going to make a point here about how I'm pretty sure Kandahar was outside of the US's operating area. I think the Brits had southern Afghanistan. However, this story supposedly takes place in 2002, which is actually, fun fact, before operations spread out throughout the entire country of Afghanistan. It's also 10 years before I was deployed, so take everything so unlike our friend here, I am going to freely say that take just about everything I say with a grain of salt, because one, we're looking at areas outside of my area of specific study, and two, we are talking about things that happened about a decade before I was in country. So this is before I was even in the Army. I was I was in high school at the time. I wasn't even in high school. I was in like middle school at the time this supposedly happened. That being said, there's going to be a lot to say.
Check by Adam Farley. I am mentioned by name. This will be an in-depth reading and rebuttal of the article. But first, a word from our sponsor. Weight management.
Okay, let's see. Yeah, you. I'm not going to sit through a plug. I don't have anything to plug, so I can't do the whole, if you plug something, I'm going to plug something. But no. Oh, so fun fact about the keto diet. It was originally used as a treatment for epilepsy. That being said, you've got to be really fucking careful if you're on the keto diet, because it can really, really, really fuck up your kidneys if you're not used to it and if you're not careful with it. So please consult your doctor.
That's ketowithla.com.
So this story is by Bernadette Giacomazzo, checked by Adam Farley. They are both welcome to come on the show and debate this with me. The mythical Kandahar giant, the biblical cryptid allegedly killed by U.S. Special Forces in Afghanistan.
And so odds are you're never going to see this, Mr. On the Trail of the Nephilim guy. But, if you've got the balls to, and Bree, pretty much gave this the same challenge, but if you've got the balls to actually, debate this with someone who knows something of the area, glove down. I'd be happy to talk to you if you're, not a coward.
So first of all, I think that the lady protests a little too much, but we'll get into that. In 2002, an elite tactical team was said to have killed a 13-foot tall beast with flaming red hair, 6 fingers on each hand, and 2 sets of teeth. Stop right there.
Okay, we will stop right there. Okay, so a 13-foot tall being. Okay, so we're talking about twice the size average. So I'm about 6'3", so about half my height. Okay. Now, current world record for height, as far as I'm aware, is like around 8 feet. And if a person gets that big, there's going to be skeletal structural issues.
Okay, we had a man that came with us. He showed me, or to us actually, through Richard Shaw. I interviewed this gentleman 3 or 4 times before we actually brought him out to Los Angeles and put him on camera. That's the first thing. I listened to his story every single time when he talked about this man by the name of Dan who was impaled by the giant. He broke down and wept.
Okay, so it sounds like this guy, or the guy who told the story to our presenter here, claimed to be special forces. Big first red flag. See, if anyone tells you that they're special forces, odds are that they're not even in the military, because like if you're going to do a stolen valor and or possibly try to allege military service to up your credentials, people always go for the badass ones. They always go for special forces. They always go for Green Berets. They always go for Navy SEAL. Okay, I was a glorified pencil pusher. I was essentially like a news forecaster. I made PowerPoints for officers. I'm going through with the boring, well, what I can of the boring details of my job, so I can assure you that no, I'm not padding out my resume. And here's another thing. So they're gonna try and claim that there's like this cover up and there's like top secret documents or about the Kandahar giant. I'll go ahead and say it. I had a top secret security clearance during my time in the military because it was my job to analyze incoming information. Breeze Stream was literally the first time I've heard about this Kandahar giant.
Okay, so there was, as a student of body language, first of all, we believed him. Second of all, we had a second witness who wasn't there but heard about the rumors. So let's continue. Okay, let's walk through this. In August 2016.
Okay, so a second witness who wasn't there but heard about the rumors. Now, how do you know that this second witness who wasn't there, wasn't a friend of your, confidant, your anonymous tipper? And of course, I highly doubt that this story even came from someone who served in Afghanistan. Because if I remember right, it's been a while since I saw this video. There's a lot of stuff wrong, just militarily wrong with the story.
A YouTuber posted a lengthy interview with a military contractor identified only as Mr. K. In the interview, Mr. K claimed to have been present during the brutal slaughter of a killer he called the Kandahar giant. The killing of a giant, he said, took place during the height of Operation Enduring Freedom.
Okay, here's the first fun bit. So, the height of Operation Enduring Freedom. What our presenter doesn't know is that Operation Enduring Freedom lasted nearly 20 years. Operation Enduring Freedom is literally just the rebuilding stage of the literally just the rebuilding stage of the Afghanistan branch of the global war on terror. I served as part of Operation Enduring Freedom. I mean, heck, technically, since I served about in the middle, since I was deployed to Afghanistan, or around 2012, 2013, you could more accurately say that I served during the height of Enduring Freedom rather than this storyteller here, because if anything, Operation Enduring Freedom was only really just starting in 2002. Starting out of the finishing up of Operation Anaconda and the other heavy military strike time that was basically from September 11th, 2001 all through 2002. Also, in 2002, the war on the global war on terror was pivoting away from Afghanistan and into Iraq. Because basically from 2002 to 2010, the focus of the GWAT was on Iraq and getting Saddam Hussein. Yeah. And also, if I remember right, Gigantopithecus wasn't even a hominid. It was more closely related to orangutans.
In 2002, when the military was engaged in fierce battles with the Taliban in their de facto capital in the Kandahar province.
Okay. Here's another fun thing. In 2002, this is off open. This is off publicly available open source documents. I double checked it because I wanted to know who was operating in Kandahar at the time. Well, in 2002, the focus of U.S. operations in Afghanistan wasn't the Kandahar region. It was not Kandahar province. It was up in what we called P2K, in Paktia, and Khost, which was in the region I kind of focused on during my time. So, he doesn't, whoever's telling this story doesn't understand anything about Operation Enduring Freedom, or else they would have given the actual mini operation name, because Enduring Freedom was literally just the war in Afghanistan. 2. Now, of course, there's always the, they're special forces, their operation was secret, and that's why we don't know. I might grant that. However, there are inconsistencies in this story, militarily speaking, that it's no, that these aren't special. If anyone encountered this Kandahar giant, which I highly doubt, there weren't any U.S. special forces involved.
Province during the U.S. invasion of Afghanistan. But this was no human fighter. The Kandahar giant, Mr. K said, was 13 feet tall, with fiery red hair, 6 fingers, and 2 sets of teeth. It even killed one of the Special Forces soldiers with a spear before the...
Okay. No way in hell any soldier is going to get within spear range of an armed hostile. I mean, unless this guy yeeted it like across, and unless this giant just yeeted the spear like a javelin, like from 300, from 300 yards away, that's not happening. If someone's I hate to say it, but Afghani civilians were killed for, were killed for a lot less because, especially in the early days of Operation Enduring Freedom, it was a bit of a Wild West where U.S. soldiers were kind of operating under U.S. cop rules. So yeah, it's because special forces are badass. And also because Spec Ops, people will think that Spec Ops means that, oh, it's hush hush, you can't really talk about it, it's undercover. I mean, yeah, there is some of that, but usually Spec Ops, from what I understand, the vast bulk of Spec Ops work, it is essentially just training locals how to do Spec Ops, so then we can, let them do it, or at least in regards to Enduring Freedom. And of course, there is the badass stuff where, you've got your Zero Dark 30. Yeah.
The rest of the unit brought it down with 30 seconds of sustained gunfire. And after they radioed it in, the Army took away its corpse and has hidden it ever since. Okay.
No way in hell the U.S. military would do that. Now they would retrieve a U.S. casualty, but an armed hostile who killed U.S. forces, no. They'd probably either assuming the armed hostile is human, assuming this Kandahar giant was just someone with a pituitary gland issue and had Irish parents or something, because fiery red hair isn't something you really see cropping up out of northwestern Europe very often. Or I don't know, maybe this Kandahar giant, let's say, is an Afghani with a pituitary gland issue who dyed his hair with henna. And polydactyly is something known to happen in humans. So let's say, for just for sake of argument, We've got an Afghani who dyed his hair with henna and had a pituitary gland issue that made him be the largest man in the world. And who somehow just decided to, like, I don't know, football yeet a stone spear at a spec ops guy with a gun. If someone like that were brought down by U.S. forces, special or otherwise, they'd probably turn him over to the like one of two things would happen. One, they'd like bring him, like turn him into his family, to be to be respectfully buried. The other is they'd, probably just like leave it. Maybe burn the corpse if they like, they're worried about disease or something. But yeah, the U.S. Army isn't going to unless you're talking about like Saddam Hussein or Osama bin Laden. The U.S. Army doesn't care about fallen hostiles.
So that's the basic story. Then they write the legend of the Kandahar giant. In 2002, a group of soldiers went missing while on patrol in a remote mountain region in the Kandahar in South.
Okay, so I mean, Kandahar is kind of in southwest Afghanistan, so maybe if you're like talking near the border of Pakistan, you might be getting into the foothills of the Hindu Kush. So okay, I can grant that. But once again, we're talking about 2002, where most of the coalition forces attention was very much in the north, where with Paktia and Kos, provinces that are much closer to Kabul. We're talking more eastern Afghanistan than southeastern Afghanistan here.
Of Afghanistan, and when they failed to make radio contact for some time, the military sent in special ops unit to investigate.
Okay, so this unit, so this regular army unit, operating way the fuck out of the operating area, somehow winds up missing. And so a spec ops unit is called. Bullshit. If something happens to make us think that a unit's in trouble, there are things called quick reaction forces, or QRFs, which is literally just another squad of the same unit that's just got that duty to sit around at the base and wait for shit to go down, and then they'll run out and pull a quick rescue or recovery, or give quick backup. Maybe someone finds an IED. So they call in the QRF. But the QRF is not spec ops. Once again, spec ops does more, training the locals and going after high value targets. So yeah, that's some bullshit right there.
Okay. Though the branch of the armed forces they belong to was never confirmed.
The branch of the armed forces they belong to was never confirmed. Here's the thing. Special forces is pretty much just an army thing. I mean, yes, every year, every branch of the military has their own, spec ops. Except for the Marines, because the Marines are just the Marines. It's like the Navy has 2 spec op units. They have the SEALs, and then they have the Marine Corps. But I mean, like the Army's got the Green Berets. They have the Rangers. And then they have special forces. Like if you see someone called special forces, they're in the Army. The Air Force doesn't really have a special forces because they do planes and shit. Like I said, the Navy has their, the SEALs and basically the entire Marine Corps. So I don't know what branch they're from. Now also, here's another thing. This story is very US centric. Like from day one in Afghanistan, it was a multinational effort. So you had the British there, you had the Canucks there, you had the Kiwis there, you had the Aussies there. A whole bunch of the US kind of led the way. Basically, Leroy Jenkins did there before everyone else, but by 2002, you had other international forces in Afghanistan.
Then high up in the mountains, the unit came across a cave with scattered army equipment around, but no signs of the missing soldiers.
Okay. So high up in the mountains, once again, assuming the story is legit, we'd probably be talking about somewhere on the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan, because that's kind of where the Hindu Kush really, the Hindu Kush kind of run along the border. Now high up in the mountains, the spec op forces finds the gear of these soldiers. And apparently these guys are the dumbest fucks to ever bullshit their way through a hostile encounter, because they don't do what any soldier should do.
And that's when they chanced upon the Kandahar giant. Though the tale grows with the telling, with some reports suggesting that the humanoid grew as tall as 15 feet, this red-headed giant with 6 digits, leather moccasins, and smelling like dead bodies suddenly emerged from the cave and impaled one of the soldiers with a spear.
Okay, so these special forces chuckle fucks, find U.S. Army gear just scattered around a cave, and somehow they let this 13-foot tall monstrosity just up and shank one of them with a spear. No, that is not going to happen. First thing they do, someone would radio into the nearest base. Give a quick action report. Has like, hey, we found, gear. Second thing, is they'd probably throw a grenade in the cave. It's like, looking around, well, first thing, check for enemies, because you're seeing US gear scattered around, and they're, and you expect to, you expect enemy presence. So they'd be, to borrow the parlance from Robert Heinlein, on the bounce. Guns would be up already, and yeah, they'd probably drop either a flashbang or like an actual grenade, maybe an incendiary for some light, something in the cave, because if someone's hiding somewhere, it's probably gonna be in the fucking cave. So yeah, here's another bit of a bullshit. Also, the second someone sees the silhouette of this Kandahar giant coming out of the cave, he's gonna have, like, okay, so we're not, so, remember, this story isn't supposed just US, just US soldiers, or even just US Marines. That this is special forces here. And so the second there's a silhouette coming out of this cave, it's already got, it's already gonna have at least one bullet hole in it per member of the squad. So it's already gonna be riddled with like 10 bullet holes, all aimed for the torso, and probably hitting vital organs.
And that's when the soldiers opened fire, ultimately felling the giant with 30 seconds of continuous fire.
Bullshit. Now, if we're talking average soldiers, I can see, like, having been an average soldier, I'm going to give 30 seconds of sustained fire to drop someone. Like, I would give that to an average soldier, because otherwise Noodle would tell me off and bring up how god awful of a shot I was. Spec Ops, no. Yeah. Now here's the thing. 30 seconds of continuous fire, I'm assuming we're talking about continuous fire across the squad. So what he's saying is, as continuous fire, I'm assuming would be more of a military sustained fire, as in you're take an aim shot, aim shot, aim shot. And yeah, once again, Spec Ops don't miss. Also, Spec Ops don't let a hulking 13-foot tall monstrosity just shank them with a stone spear. And that's another thing. Even in the early days in Afghanistan, when you're out on patrol, you're wearing Kevlar. Show me a fucking stone spear that can pierce Kevlar. Bullshit. And take your shot.
Between them, the squad was armed with full auto M4 carbines, recon carbine. It goes on from there.
Okay. So here's the thing. The M4 doesn't have a full auto. It's basically got safety, semi-auto, and then what's called 3-round burst. So, and yeah, I could see a Spec Ops soldier doing a quick 3-round burst. But no. And no. No. Yeah, basically it like the civilian equivalent would be like the AR-15. It's basically the US's version of the AK-47. It's like standard issue. And yeah, it's got, safety, single round, 3-round burst. There is no full auto on one of those guns. Which also leads me to think that the source of this story is not Spec Ops like the presenter claims it is. It's either a case of stolen valor, or B, just saying Spec Ops to pad out the resume. I doubt the source of this story is even military. Yeah. Like I said, it's it doesn't have a full auto. I've trained with the M4. And if you can't hit a 13-foot tall monstrosity center of mass from 10 yards away with an M4, you shouldn't be in the Army, much less the Special Forces.
This much firepower concentrated on one target for 1 second, let alone 30, would be extremely destructive. After the troops killed the giant.
Yeah. So he kind of debunks himself a little bit there. Yeah, like I said, the second this bastard's out of the cave, he's already gonna be a colander. Like, just spewing blood everywhere. I mean, we're like, even in 2002, we're dealing with the conventional war in Afghanistan being essentially over, and essentially, the forces in there are fighting are fighting coin. They're doing a counterinsurgency operation, which means you have to be ready for dirty tricks, or you're gonna die.
They literally have a Chinook helicopter, which carried it to a transport plane where no one ever saw it again. The soldiers were...
Once again, no. Also, so this cave, which is, supposedly in the face of a cliff because they're high up in the mountains, has enough room for a Chinook to land and carry off. I'm going to double check, but I think a Chinook is a cargo helicopter. And yeah. Yeah, okay, yeah. It's a cargo helicopter. It's basically what they'd use to haul vehicles. No way you're getting a I mean, unless there's like a really wide lip in the mountain face, there's no way you're getting a Chinook that close, especially in that region, because if I remember right, Fort Restrepo's kind of down in that area, and where that fort was set up, they couldn't get air support in or out because the mountains were literally so high that aircraft coming in would get mortars dropped on them. So here's another shot of bullshit.
Were forced to sign non-disclosure agreements so the government could keep them all quiet. But eventually the soldiers broke their silence because, as one of the men would later say, the people have a right to know the truth.
Okay. So NDAs. I sign. Okay, so every U.S. soldier that is going to be handling sensitive material signs an NDA. It's basically, hey, don't tell anyone classified information or else you're going to jail. So, if, and here's so if someone did say leak this, leak these classified reports, or leak this story out, we would probably have their name in the news about them getting arrested and sent to Fort, and getting a cell next to what's her name? Yeah. They'd be sharing a cell with Miss Chelsea Manley, or Miss Chelsea Manning, if they breached their NDA. And also, Spec Ops don't talk. I mean, like, I'm just keeping this to basic shit, like basic non-classified shit, and it's already so wrong.
So, how the government's denial fueled more conspiracy theories. In August 2016, Snopes, there's something you can really trust, right? Reached out to the Department of the Defense, as if they're going to tell us. Even the
Yeah, like, oh god, I just I'm just like imagining the private who had to deal with that phone call. It's like, or the private or the civilian contractor. It's like, people think there was a giant shot in Kandahar. Is this a practical joke, sir? As once again, enemy hostile killed in action would not be taken back to would not be seized by the US government unless it was a high value target like Osama bin Laden or Saddam Hussein. It, unless you're talking about the big guy on top, that's not happening.
The same people that have been telling us for years that UFOs and UAPs don't exist.
Okay, so UFOs and yes, they exist because if you see a flying object that you can't identify, that's a UFO. Now, now that doesn't necessarily mean that it's a ship being flown by aliens, because while it's very highly likely that extraterrestrial life and even extraterrestrial intelligence exists or existed out there in the cosmos, the universe is so fucking big that there's just it's just as likely that we will never contact them, or vice versa. Yeah, it's like wonder why people see strange lights in the sky near bases where aircraft are flying into and out of.
So now we're going to believe that the DOD? I'm not so sure. So
now I'd say unless it's questions about about atrocities committed by soldiers, you can generally trust the DOD. The CIA, on the other hand, are a bunch of bastards that won't share. And you did not get that from me. It's like, yeah, if there's shady shit coming from the US government, I'd be more likely to believe that it's coming from the CIA. But even with the CIA, I draw the line at Men in Black shenanigans. Like, I don't see Will Smith in the CIA, going, "Welcome to Earth." Yes, I'm getting my Will Smith sci-fi movies mixed up. Sue me. Don't sue me. I'm broke. You won't see a penny.
August 16th, Snopes reached out to the Department of Defense about the Kandahar giant incident. The Department of Defense told the outlet in no uncertain terms they had no record of information about a Special Forces member killed by a giant in Kandahar.
Because, as I outlined earlier in this video, in 2002, U.S. forces were largely focused more to the north. U.S., internet, ISAF, the big coalition of everyone who wanted to beat up Afghanistan for doing 9/11, didn't expand to Afghanistan as a whole until 2006. Yeah, like I said, the CIA are a bunch of bastards that won't share. I speak from personal experience.
What are they going to say? So that doesn't surprise me. We have two witnesses. I believe the guy.
Yeah, you have two witnesses, one of whom is likely a case of stolen valor, because there's no way that story lines up with actual military training, much for the average soldier, much less the stuff that spec ops goes through.
Can I prove that? No, I can't. But there's other people who've come forward that have stories of the Kandahar giant. So what is the truth, right?
Well, and I've heard plenty of stories from people in my unit about the Bagram Batman. A mysterious figure cloaked in shadows who was said to have been a sergeant major who went crazy, but now he runs through the base cloaked in shadows, beating the shit out of anyone who isn't wearing a PT belt. It's like, this isn't like I've heard about the Bagram Batman, but I haven't heard about this bullshit. And take your shot. It's like, yeah, I know even the military has its last guy I heard that I knew a guy who was caught by the Bagram Batman with their hands in their pockets. He's got a permanent smile now. That's how he got his scars.
Let's continue. What's more, there are no press releases on the Department of Defense's website involving either a special forces troop disappearing in Afghanistan. Do you really think they're going to tell us that?
Now, no. Actually, yes. Now, he wasn't special forces, but I'd like to introduce you to a guy. You might have heard of him. His name is Bo Bergdahl, formerly Sergeant Bergdahl, who disappeared one night, and he disappeared in 2008, 2006. We were still looking for him while I was in Afghanistan. Like, every other day you'd see a post about, hey, keep an eye out for Bergdahl. Sure, it's not it's not the DOD giving out, press releases. Hey, we still haven't found him. But it did hit the news when we did, or when rather we got him back from the Taliban. So, and if a spec up, if a soldier falls in combat in Afghanistan, if there's enough of him left to pick up, his remains are going to be shipped back to the US, and there are going to be formations of soldiers there to salute him as he passes through airport after airport. I know, I stood in some of those formations.
or any incident involving soldiers felling a giant? Well, of course not.
Yeah, because that story is bullshit. Yeah, Bergdahl was the guy who like ran off in the middle of the night off base and ended up getting captured by the Taliban. Or there's the whole lone survivor movie that's based off a true story. Like, yes, people disappear in war, but we do our damnedest to either make sure they're dead, make sure they're actually dead, or find them and rescue them. Either way, we do our damnedest nowadays to make sure they get back to the U.S.
And I'll back this up. Of course, as with any good conspiracy, this lack of evidence isn't sufficient proof that the myth of the Kandahar giant doesn't exist. In fact, Snowden's debunking of a legend has had quite the opposite effect in certain cryptoid spaces, which claims that the government is trying to hide the truth from the public.
Well, we've already got there's gonna, if I remember right, there's gonna be stuff later on that's just some extra fun. But why would the government give a damn about assuming the giant is human? Why would someone give a damn with some Afghani with a P gland, hyperactive pituitary gland, who dyed his hair with henna? It's like, and yeah, I'm not addressing the two sets of teeth because I don't believe any U.S. soldiers would even get close enough to look in the giant's mouth. Like, even if it was like some hulking monstrosity, I mean, even if it was an inhuman hulking monstrosity, the best that would happen is maybe someone would try to take the spear as a war trophy. It's like, oh, this is from some big badass motherfucker we took down in Kandahar. Like, I could see that.
Around the same time that the Snopes article came out that discredited the story, self-proclaimed supernaturalist L.A. Marzulli told several right-wing websites that the United States government was covering up a spectacular story and that those in power had a vested interest in keeping the truth of biblical prophecies from being exposed to the general public.
Okay. Mr. Marzulli. Given how ridiculously evangelical the American people are, especially those in power, because even the more secular ones just kind of let the evangelicals have their say. Like anything that would boost the evangelical talking point would get shouted from the rooftops. Yeah, I was just gearing up. I had a dry throat.
So notice the way I am portrayed. This is the way the media works. right-wing websites. So,
well, yes, because most there is a Venn diagram between evangelical conspiracy theorists and the right wing. It's practically a fucking circle. I do have my cannibal pack. I just need to clean it out.
what about you? Are you a left-wing website? What is your name again? The author of this ridiculous story?
Now, so yes, my politics do kind of lean towards the left. I know you're addressing the person who wrote the article. That doesn't change the fact that, you know, the kind of people who are, you know, more likely to believe in conspiracy theories about Nephilim, because because apparently this Kandahar giant is one of the Nephilim, and if it was, then that means God did a really fucking shoddy job when he genocided everyone to try and wipe them out. It's gonna be the evangelical community, which tends to skew heavily towards the American right.
But we're getting her time here because Bernadette. So Bernadette, are you right wing or left wing? And you paint right wing as something really bad. Is that really?
No, I mean, if you think being called right wing is bad, then yeah, then why do you make stuff for the right wing? No, seriously. Right wing and left wing is a descriptor. That's it. The reason why it's has connotations either positive or negative depending on where you fall in the political spectrum is because of the massive political polarization that has taken place in America right now. The fact that you're calling it, that you're saying it, that you're asserting that it's a negative thing is just your persecution complex acting up. I'd suggest you see someone for it, but the people you're likely to see would just feed it.
A bad thing? You're welcome to come and discuss it. I'm not sure. So, self-proclaimed supernaturalists. Well, how about the millions of Christians that are in America that also believe in the supernatural? Does that mean we're self-proclaimed, or though we just...
There's a difference between believing in the existence or lack thereof in deities and believing in the story of a coked out stolen valor bastard who says he shot a giant in Kandahar. You
just follow the Bible. But that's how, when they spin stuff, that's the way the game is played. So let's continue.
Oh, so we're gonna follow the Bible here. So about how the Nephilim were, wiped out in the flood. Or is that are we gonna follow the Bible on that, or are we gonna follow the words of this bullshit stolen valor guy who I doubt even exists?
People have a right to know about the stuff. If there are 15 or 18 footers roaming the earth and our military has brought them down, we have a right as American citizens to know about it, Marzulli said. Yes.
15 or 18 footers. I thought you said that this Kandahar giant was 13 feet tall. And also, if a cave is big enough to hide a 13-foot giant, yeah, they're any soldier worth their salt is probably tossing a grenade in there just to be safe before they see anything. Like, there's no way an average soldier would let themselves just get shanked by a stone-tipped spear.
I mean, this isn't classified military stuff. This is something we need to know. And it points back to the biblical.
No. It's not classified military stuff because it's bullshit.
Prophetic narrative. End of quotes.
Yes. So I don't remember giants or Nephilim being in the Book of Revelations, which is or in any of the other end time prophecies of the Bible. Just saying that.
Then she says this. The real story of the Kandahar giant is a lot less interesting than the myth. In 2016, L.A. Marzulli, whose YouTube channel is dedicated to tying current events to biblical prophecies, brought the story roaring back to life thanks to the power of the internet. In a now deleted video, first posted in 2016, Marzulli interviewed Mr. K, a man purporting to be a soldier, who said he witnessed the giant of Kandahar. Mr. K claimed he saw the giant carrying a spear and murdering a United States soldier named Dan before he and other special forces took it down.
And given all of the basic levels of this is just how the army works, that was wrong with Mr. K's story, and doubled with the fact that he said he was special forces. I'm gonna say it. Mr. K is stolen valor. Now I don't like to levy that charge willy-nilly, but I'm gonna say it. Mr. K is stolen valor. So Mr. K can fuck right off. Now, here's the real question about Dan here is where's his legs? It's like, Miss Lieutenant Dan, where'd your legs go? I really need to watch Forrest Gump sometime. Yeah, spec forces don't admit they're spec forces. Stolen valor are always spec forces, or they're Green Berets, or they're Navy SEALs.
According to Marzulli, the creature was a Nephilim, a group of people mentioned in the Genesis and Numbers books of the Old Testament.
Yes, not a group of people. A group of Asimar, because they are supposed, if you're taking the accounts of the Bible literally, they are the spawn of angels and women. So they're supposedly enormous half angels that God just that God genocided the world to wipe out, because I guess the one big thing on his no-no list is don't fuck angels, whether consensually or not, because Genesis doesn't say anything about consent on the human's part. Just saying.
Who were said to be people of unusually large size and strength that could be found in the Middle East both before and after the flood of Noah's fame. But biblical scholars largely agree that the Nephilim tales were metaphors and not based on the reality of a 13-foot giant living in the desert.
Yeah, because as far as I'm aware, the term Nephilim is basically the human or the Hebrew equivalent of what the Greeks would call a hero. Like they're men of valor. They're like maybe demigods, but essentially they're humans plus. They're heroes. They are great men. Yeah.
Sorry, you are dead wrong. And this is the trouble. You see, she is just, where do the biblical scholars largely agree? Where's your source? There is no source. Show me one footnote. There is no footnote. You're just spouting what you want to believe. Actually, I've devoted.
I'm not a biblical scholar, but I'm betting there are just papers that can be like dumped on your desk, Mr. Mazzulli. Yeah, basically, as far as I'm aware, like the original connotation of Nephilim was essentially the Hebrew equivalent to what the Greeks would call a classical hero.
My entire life on proving the veracity of the biblical prophetic narrative. And we could go down, line by line by line. How do you think those stones at Sacsayhuaman, weighing 80 to 100 tons, how were they moved? What about?
If I were to guess, people be smart.
About the 18.5-year lunar cycle that is within all of these sites in the United States and elsewhere.
Once again, people be smart. Also, people like sky.
What about the connectivity between America's Stonehenge, England, Chaco Canyon, Machu Picchu, Teotihuacan, Mexico, and the Canary Islands?
The only henge that I'm aware of in the U.S. is Carhenge, and that's a tourist attraction. But if there are henges in the New World, I said it before and I said it again. People be smart. People like stars. That's all that needs to be done about it.
See, she doesn't know what she's talking about. And the fact that she says Nephilim tales were metaphors, no, my dear, you're dead wrong there. And many of us have labored long and hard to try to bring the truth.
Okay. So we're taking the tales of the we're taking the tales of the tales of the Nephilim in as literal for the purposes. Okay. So Genesis, Nephilim. Okay. So Genesis 6:4. So I'm going to say Genesis 6. And because evangelicals like the King James, I'm going to pull it up in the King James Version. So there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God, angels, assuming, came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men, which were of told men of renown, or the Nephilim. So even in the King James Version, Nephilim is translated as mighty men which are of old, men of renown. So even taking the Genesis mention of the Nephilim literally, it boils down to angels got horny. Angels had relations with women that were of dubious consent. Women had big babies. God did not like. God did a genocide to wipe them out. So unless Yahweh is just horrifically ineffective and now on when it comes to wiping the earth clean of a race that he thinks are abominations, there shouldn't be any Nephilim. Now, yeah, yes, there were so-called giants in, that were the Anakim, and there was like an Egyptian giant, but actual Nephilim, like if you're taking the Bible literally, were wiped out in the flood.
About the biblical prophetic narrative. Once more, the only dam that died in Kandahar around the time of this alleged incident in 2002 was Sergeant Class Daniel Romero, who was killed in a bomb blast along 3 other soldiers. Okay, that's interesting. Where's your footnote? Where's your source?
And here's the thing. Kandahar being so relatively close to Iran, had actually a lot more sophisticated IEDs because they were getting parts machined in Iran and sent into southern Afghanistan. So like you're more likely to be killed by a molten copper slug, and by slug I mean like a giant bullet of molten copper, than you are to be killed by some giant.
There is none. But even with the evidence stacked against it, the myth of the Kandahar giant is still said to be an open secret among soldiers who served in Kandahar in 2002. Several veterans who served in the region have said that from that point on, they were instructed to point their weapons high by aiming.
Bullshit. Bullshit. Even always aim for center at mass. Like U.S. troops are always are trained to always aim center of mass unless you're firing a warning shot. Because if you're aiming a center of mass, you're very likely to hit something important. If you aim for the head, it's more likely that you're just gonna flat out miss. So if they're being told to aim high, that's probably because we did a few too many war crimey things, and we needed to start letting off warning shots.
Aiming for the head and then a little higher. So,
once again, bullshit. You aim for, if you're firing to kill, you aim center of mass. It's a bigger target, and it's much more likely that you're going to hit something vital. Yeah. Yes, like I said, I don't trust, or I do trust the fact that soldiers were given orders to aim high. It's not because of some Kandahar giant. It's because it's basically to fire off a warning shot so you don't accidentally kill civilians and get them more pissed off at you.
There you go. And it's absolutely amazing. After learning about the Kandahar giant, read about the 9/11 conspiracy theories that people actually believe. So, Building 7 just fell at free fall speed. I guess that just...
Oh, look, 9/11 trutherism. Because, of course. So, what? Was it demons that knocked down the tower?
Happens because Snope says there's nothing to see here, right? This story is what's, first of all, it'd be very interesting. Why did she write the story? Where's the information? Of course, she doesn't contact me and get my information on it. See those skulls behind us? That's our DNA stuff, right?
Okay. Yeah, people shape their heads. It's a thing that happens.
That's hard science. We prove that there's a Middle Eastern origin to those skulls right behind me there.
I doubt that, because most of the cultures I'm aware of that practiced head wrapping were outside of the Middle East. There's a group in like Northern Africa that does it. There was a group in South America that did it, and the Huns did it, or at least that form of head shaping. I'd say more likely plastic replicas.
Okay, see the 9-footer here? That's proof of a biblical giant right here on Catalina Island. Look at.
I mean, assuming you're pointing at the taller at the upper picture, so I can't really see the lower one. Assuming you're pointing at the upper picture, that looks like kind of a forced perspective thing.
The bas relief over here, right behind me. What do you think that's about?
Artistic representation, because humans be creative. It's kind of what makes us human.
Giants roamed the earth. The Nephilim were real. There's no doubt about that.
Okay, once again. Oh yeah, giants roam the earth, because anyone standing over 7 feet tall is considered a giant. I'm nearly a giant. I'm like, anyone 7 feet tall or higher is considered a giant. I'm about 9 inches shy of being a giant. Like, but so even assuming that the Bible is literal truth, and there were giant Nephilim. So either God is good at his job, and there aren't any Nephilim left, and all the other giants in the Bible are basically people with gigantism, hyperthyroidism and overactive pituitary glands, something of the sort. Or there are still Nephilim dancing about, and God was not only an absolute moral monster when he genocided everyone by drowning, which is like one of the worst ways to go. Not only is he an absolute moral monster for the flood, but he is also incompetent. So choose your pick, take your choice, Mr. Mazzulli.
That Goliath, okay? Goliath was not 6 foot. Goliath was 9, 10, maybe 12 feet.
It depends on the cubits, but the sling was basically the M4 of the era. So
once again, we stand by our research. And isn't it interesting in our...
We stand by our research, i.e., we stand by any Tom, Dick, and Harry story that comes to us, as long as it lines up with our LCD acid trip interpretation of the Bible.
Kind of close with this. Isn't it interesting that I was contacted by a guy from the deep state. Why? Because of our breaking of the story of the Kandahar giant. They did not want that story out. The guy told me that face to face. The reason why I'm here is because we don't want you talking about this stuff. I'm not making this up.
Okay, so guy from the deep state. So who is your Mr. Deep Throat then? Isn't it interesting that he's always asking for names and citations, but doesn't give any himself? Now, either I'll say it, either you've drunk so much of the Kool-Aid that you are desperate for any shred of anything that supports your methamphetamine infused vision of biblical prophecy. Because from what I was Pentecostal, and everything you said that touched on the Bible looks really pretty fucking heretical from my ex-evangelical point of view. Everything that you've said militarily in regards to this special forces operation that killed this Kandahar giant stinks to high heaven of stolen valor bullshit.
So if you're interested at all, you can download all 7 of the On the Trail of a Nephilim series. And Bernadette, you're welcome to come on the show and debate this with me if you have the courage to do so. I will treat you fairly and with respect.
And Mr. Mazzulli, if you have the balls to debate anyone who actually knows what they're talking about, both Bree and I have extended open invitations. But to be fair, I'm practically fucking invisible. So I doubt you'll even see this. But if you do, if someone manages to drop this in your Twitter or however you can be reached, which I'm not saying do it, I'm not saying don't do it. If you happen to see this and if you happen to have the balls, the gauntlet is extended.
But here's all 7 of them. Go to streaming.lamarzulli.net, streaming.lamarzulli.net. I will say it again. There is a hidden history that has been deliberately obfuscated from the peoples of the world, and that's why we are on the trail of the Nephilim.
Yeah. Once again, like I didn't even have to like go beyond basic level shit to completely destroy this Kandahar giant story. Militarily, these were either the dumbest, like high off their asses guys who should have been drummed out of the army, much less the special forces, or it's stolen valor bullshit to feed a conspiracy theory. And this is about where Brees stopped it, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and stop it here. So yeah, that was Kandahar Giant. I remembered something about about the spear being a stone spear, which is why I kept referencing it, but apparently it, like, whether or not it was a stone tip spear wasn't actually mentioned in the video. But like, one, ain't no way, like, no matter how sharp it is, ain't no way a stone tip spear is getting through fucking Kevlar. 2, no way in hell any soldier worth their salt, much less special forces, are, getting near enough to an armed hostile to be shanked by a spear. And third, there's enough, like, defunct military equipment just in the area around Afghanistan from when the Soviets were there that my Bowser suits stayed in Afghanistan. That being said, there's enough, like, Soviet equipment just lying around in Afghanistan that, I mean, if you said that the giant was armed with a machete made from a tail rotor blade, like, maybe I would actually give like a machete made from part of a propeller or part of a tail rotor blade more credence than I would some just random spear. Just given how much how much stuff there is. And heck, you could say you like hacked off a head with it. If you're gonna tell a bullshit story, it might as well spice it up. Or is that just me? But with that, we'll kind of go off into a shilling. This Saturday, I'm gonna be tackling the Lord of the Rings trailer, because I have issues. I know every racist says this, but I'm not racist, I swear. And then on Sunday, we're covering Little Caesar to kick off Mob Month. Hey, if you're gonna make a far-fetched story, you might as well make it entertaining. And with that, remember, indoctrination is a hell of a drug. My enforced murder giants, my bag a long knife carries, for to cut the lies from lovers' eyes, with a witch to feed the fairies, and it's still I sing bonny boys, bonny mad boys, bedlam boys are bonny, and they all go bare and they live by the air, and they want no drink nor money.